All right, so now I'm going to explore the issue of immigrants, a topic that never seems to go away. And when I say just, I mean the controversies that take place between locals who see themselves as natives, even if they're simply here for a mere generation or two, and um, and people that are coming from foreign lands that uh, have cultures and customs different than their own. So we see at this time England, France, Italy, Scandinavia, Poland, and Holland. By the way, Scandinavia, for those of you who don't know, would be Sweden, Denmark, Norway. Okay, um, and the majority of these came from Germany and Ireland, and I think it's fair to say that again, you meet white Americans that's been living here several generations, and you ask, what is your ethnic background? A good chunk say German, Irish, maybe something else on the British Isles, Scottish and Norwegian, uh, um, and you kind of hear this over and over, and this is the general mix of a lot of old standing um, white folks in the United States. Okay. Um, Now, in 1850, Irish were 45% coming in, and Germans 20% of foreign born. Okay, so they were definitely standing out. And the majority of Irish moved to eastern cities, and Germans to the northwest. And you see this, by the way, when it comes to immigration patterns. Um, I did work in grad school on the Assyrian population that came into Turlock, and there was one man that basically established himself from Urmia, Iran, and then families start getting brought over, and then word passes around that there is a spot that you can go to that would be good to immigrate, and you get the buildup of more and more folks coming. So it's interesting to see how that works, right? You get someone coming in, a person or a family, and they spread the word. And of course, people want to flock to those who understand each other's backgrounds. Many of them are coming from the same towns that they grew up in together. I mean, imagine this. And this is something that we in the United States, that maybe our grandparents experienced, but we don't think about as we go several generations in, is, can you imagine if everybody from Modesto, California, a good chunk moved to Iran, to a part of Iran, and started telling everybody, oh, we should go there. And in part of, if we did a reverse, Lake Urmia area, we're all moving there, and we went to the same high schools and schools back in America, but we're thriving and living there. In a very different land and culture, right? So sometimes I like to really kind of like really think about the implications of all this. It's very intense to me. Anyhow, how did Americans feel about this? Wisconsin permitted aliens to vote as soon as they declared their intention of seeking citizenship and resided for at least 1 year. Well, that's different than what we hear now, right? A way of looking at it. But many had fear and alarm just as much as now. Protestants viewed the growth of Catholics as a threat from the Church of Rome, and secret societies were getting together to combat the alien menace. And this help wanted sign really is for real. Help wanted, no Irish need apply. All right, so let's discuss this a little bit. You might be remembering that Andrew Jackson came from Ireland, and so he should, we have this popular president. He's Irish. So how can there be this anti-Irish thing going on in America at this time? Well, what happened here with immigrants often was bringing in the old baggage of what was taking place in Europe and still takes place to this day. So if you recall, if you go back and remember, I talked about the Scots-Irish. We had some documentary clips I put on that. And at the Hillbillies, right, the Whiskey Rebellion, you had a strong amount of people in the Appalachians fighting on the side of the Revolution. People like Andrew Jackson that we would call Scots-Irish, actually, coming from Ireland. But if you recall, and you maybe you do, but maybe you don't, so I'll just go back to this, that if you remember that I said that Ireland was the first attempt of colonization by the English as they bounced into the New World. Well, colonization means that the English put people into parts of Ireland, and the north in particular, and what we call the Ulster plantation. And many English and Lowland Scots, the Scottish from the Lowlands, such as my family, Pollock, okay? Actually, some of the Pollocks that went to Ireland are shortened their name to Polk. President Polk will also be a part of this. There's many Scots-Irish in the presidencies of the United States. Okay, so, but going back though, wait. What's the difference between the Irishness of Andrew Jackson and the Irish that are saying help not wanted, need not apply on these plaques? So you had Lowland Scots and some English Protestants that are given land at the expense of the native Irish, who are predominantly Catholic, and setting up a kind of militant settler community in the north that believes in their right to exist at the expense of the barbaric, wrong religion believing Catholic Irish. And over time, many of these Scottish and English viewed themselves as Irish, but they were Irish over a period of time, but not native born, and in opposition to Catholic Celtic Irish. Okay? And an identity of Northerners is a whole complex thing, but many of the people that left here, when we talk about the Scots-Irish, are meaning originally of Scottish descent, who colonized and basically took over land from the Irish and then bounced into the United States. Okay, so Andrew Jackson came from a Protestant background, though Ireland. Okay, this next wave of Irish that came in were actually Irish Catholics, not of that northern colonial legacy. And so the Irish that were here, the Scots-Irish, had been fed from many generations in their culture a very militant anti-Catholicism. Okay, you guys following me on this? All right. There has been a militant anti-Catholic sentiment from the Protestant side since the Reformation, and vice versa, by the way. Protestants living under Catholic rulers also suffered. But what I want you to kind of think about is several things right now. Think about the fear of Islam within Europe, but I'll move away from Europe and just talk about in the United States. Talk about the issues about Mexico and immigration that Donald Trump brings up. What I'm just trying to point out is the issue of religious wars and the religious conflict, and the idea of whether or not certain people are even capable of integrating into our society, about people who believe in things that we see as opposed to our own laws, is not a new story. Okay, we went through this before several times. All right, that's something I want you to think about. And so that's why I think this is a very important part of our history as we look at the process now. Okay, now, so here we're talking about native groups. Now we use a term for American Indians that's considered more politically correct, Native American. Well, Native American did have a term here in the 19th century, and what it really meant was white Protestants that have been here, as opposed to this other Germanic Irish Catholic riffraff. Okay, so you had what was called the Native American Association, and then the Native American Party. All right, and many of these merged, okay, kind of shortly before the times of the Civil War is going to be brewing. So I want to get back and discuss this because, again, you're going to just, as I start reading this, no matter what your politics are, you're going to start really feeling the familiarity of the drama that's taking place during these times and these views and what we see take place right now. So I'll move on to the next section. Further talking about this right here.